Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I'm speaking to you on behalf of Forge College, and I gotta tell you, I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in. If you've been following along with our track, you know we've been on a pretty wild journey. In our last lesson, Audit Methodologies Overview, we really figured out how to lock the doors and make our code bulletproof. But today we're pivoting. We're moving from just securing safe code to actually building truly scalable architecture. We are diving straight into our introduction to contract patterns and trade-offs.
But hey, before we start laying any digital bricks, let me throw a question your way. Why exactly does a supposedly scalable smart contract suddenly start costing an absolute fortune in gas? I mean, imagine building a giant, sprawling 50-room mansion just because you thought you might need the space, only to realize the monthly utility bills to keep the lights on are completely bankrupting you. Well, in Web3, bloated contracts are that mansion. And gas fees? Those are your massive utility bills. And, that brings us right to our core pivot for today. We're moving away from those audit methodologies and stepping into architectural blueprints. Now that our code is secure and we know it won't be easily exploited, we've got to put our hard hats on. It's time to map out exactly how we manage memory and maximize gas efficiency so our users don't go totally broke just trying to interact with our application. All right, let's just dive right into this blueprint. Our roadmap today will quickly hit the architect's dilemma, our core patterns, the whole balancing act of gas versus complexity, a deep dive into the clone blueprint, a practical design workflow, and then we'll wrap it all up. So, let's kick things off with Section 1, the architect's dilemma. To really get architecture on the blockchain, you absolutely have to understand the fundamental physics of the environment. Where does your code live? Where does your storage live? And crucially, who is paying for it all? The biggest, heavy-hitting force here is the delegate call. Think of a delegate call like hiring a contractor for your house. The contractor brings their own brain and their own tools, that's your logic, but they do all the actual work inside your garage, that's your storage. If they don't know exactly how you've organized your moving boxes, they might accidentally unpack the kitchen plates right into the bathroom vanity. In Solidity, we call that silent data corruption, and it is a massive risk if your storage slots aren't perfectly aligned. Knowing the physics of our environment, let's move right into Section 2 and examine our core patterns. Basically, the actual building materials we have to choose from. If we lay our options out like a master schematic, we're basically looking at 5 main structural families. First up is the monolithic pattern. Storage and logic live in the exact same place. It's like a custom-built fortress. It costs a lot of gas upfront to deploy, but day-to-day living, the per-call gas impact is delightfully low. Then you've got the proxy pattern. Here, the proxy owns the storage, but the implementation holds the logic. It's cheaper to deploy than a monolith, but since every single call has to be routed through the proxy using delegate call, your per-call gas overhead goes up. Libraries are kind of similar. The caller owns the storage, but the library holds the logic. Then we have clones. Honestly, these are the tracked housing of Web3. You deploy a tiny runtime, and every clone gets its own independent storage. The deployment cost is incredibly low, and if you optimize it, the runtime isn't too bad either. Finally, the diamond pattern. This is basically a megamall. A central proxy holds all the storage, but the logic is split across multiple storefronts, or facets. It requires high initial structuring and has moderate to high lookup costs, but it gives you incredible modularity. So, with all those options, how do we actually pick one? Well, that brings us to Section 3, the eternal battle of gas versus complexity. Here's the absolutely crucial point. You are always playing a balancing game between two opposing forces: upfront deployment cost versus per-call execution impact. If you strictly optimize for per-call gas, you're going to build giant monolithic contracts that are so ridiculously expensive to deploy, you might just run out of funds before you even launch. On the flip side, if you only optimize for deployment cost by using highly complex proxy routing, your users are going to get slapped with massive gas fees every single time they try to execute a simple function. You really have to anticipate your application's lifestyle. Just a few users doing heavy logic? Go monolithic. Thousands of users needing their own independent state? For sure, you need clones. Speaking of clones, let's actually zoom in a bit for Section 4, the clone blueprint. All right, grab your magnifying glasses for a second, because we're looking at the raw blue-collar assembly code of an EIP 1167 minimal proxy. It operates in 4 precise steps, almost like a factory assembly line. Step 1, the factory loads the free memory pointer, usually hex 40. This is basically just finding an empty workspace. Step 2, it drops down a 55-byte runtime initialization blob. Think of that as the boilerplate frame of our clone.
Step 3 is where the magic trick happens. It takes the 20-byte address of your master implementation contract, shifts it perfectly into place, and embeds it directly into the clone's bytecode. And step 4, it executes the create opcode. Boom. You've just deployed a tiny, incredibly cheap contract whose only job in life is to catch incoming calls and unconditionally forward them to that embedded master address.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates why clones are so powerful. You get these totally independent storage boxes for thousands of users, but they all point back to one single shared logic blueprint. You can spin up 1,000 user vaults for pennies. But there's always a trade-off, right? Upgrading them is a serious headache. Because that master address is hard-coded directly into the clone's bytecode, you can't just flip a switch to upgrade all of them at once. You have to design pretty complex migration paths if you ever want to change the logic later on.
Knowing all of these quirks and trade-offs, how do you actually make the right call in the wild? That brings us to Section 5, our design workflow. Here is your master 4-step workflow that you can take straight to the blockchain. Step 1, quantify your constraints. Don't guess here. Write down N, your expected number of instances, and G, your per-call gas ceiling. Step 2, take those real numbers and shortlist your patterns using the heuristic table we talked about earlier. Step 3, evaluate your migration paths. And please listen to me very carefully on this one. Planning your state migration often absolutely dominates your long-term costs. If you ignore this and mess up your storage slots during an upgrade, your contract is effectively bricked. No way around it. And step 4, prototype and measure. Theory is great, but the EVM is notoriously quirky. Build a tiny version of your chosen pattern and run it through gas profiling tools before you ever commit to production. All right, let's tie all of these blueprints together in Section 6, our conclusion. If you take away absolutely anything from today's explainer, please make it these 3 pillars. First, actively balance your deployment cost against runtime gas based on real expected user volume. Second, you must aggressively document your storage ownership. A master architect knows exactly which slots are reserved before they ever even type the word delegate call. And third, prototype and measure. Gas characteristics can and will change with compiler versions, so always test things empirically. Now that we've mapped out the conceptual landscape, it's almost time to get our hands dirty. Coming up next in this track, we're going to convert these architectural decisions into concrete code by actually building upgradable proxies. It is going to be fantastic. So I'm going to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. Will your contract scale elegantly, or is it going to collapse under the weight of its own gas fees? The blueprint you choose today completely dictates your reality tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep building smartly, and please, head over to forge.college to dive deeper into this subject and explore all of our comprehensive Web3 architecture modules. Catch you in the next one.